Welcome to Savor the Story podcast, where books and snacks are life. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Vanessa. And this
Nice.
is episode 1.
Woo! Yes. We did it. All right, so if you guys haven't listened to episode 0, go back and listen to it, because that's going to explain a lot of backstory with us. It's going to tell you a little bit about us. It's going to tell you about our reading preferences and a whole lot of little information. So that way, we're hoping that, like, in the future, in the episodes, like, we wouldn't have to keep explaining things to you guys. So go back and listen to episode 0. If you haven't listened to episode 0, this is episode 1. Dun, dun, dun.
Yes. So this is our first full real episode. You're going to get book reviews and all the things we promised.
Maybe.
So, right, maybe. Before we get into all of that, though, Nicole, do you want to tell me about your week? Tell everyone how your week went.
It was great. It was everything that I wanted it to be. Yeah, it was okay. I mean, it was good.
Was it because you weren't at work with me?
It was because I was not at work, but not necessarily the not with you part. You could have put a period at that. Like, yeah, I did not have to go into work. I still worked, but I didn't go into the office, and that was great. But yeah, I mean, on a side note, I went up to visit my sister in Detroit. And my husband went up with me, not to visit my sister. He had some work stuff to do up there. So, but he came up with me and we got to hang out and I got to see my sister and we watched the Twisters movie and got lots of food, did lots of stuff, talked about a lot of books because she's also a big, nerd when it comes to books as well. So yeah, it was a great weekend. No complaints. How about you?
Awesome. My week was okay. We had I went to a lunch with Tim's work people this week. That was it was cool. It was like a little mini baby shower for one of his coworker friends. And so went and did that. And then also this week, oh no, I don't think I did anything else. But I feel like as soon as I go to sleep, I don't remember anything else that happened. So, whoopsie. So yeah, that was pretty much it. I feel like the whole rest of the week, as you'll find out, I literally spent the week reading.
Yes.
Like a lot of books and pages and all of that. So we'll get into that later. But I really didn't have time for much else. So dang it. Yeah. So I didn't really do anything else. But I will say, as like a little segue into talking about our snackies, we did kick off this week with going to the bookstore. As like, we're going to start recording the podcast this week, so we're going to go see if we can find some books. And every time we go to this bookstore, we go to the Cheesecake Factory for cheesecake, obviously, for dessert. We've never been there once for food, but we go for dessert.
Yes.
And I got what I always get, and that is carrot cake. It is delicious from there. And so that is going to be my snack for this week and my rating for this week, because I made that cheesecake or that carrot cake last till Wednesday, and we went on Sunday. So this week all of my ratings are going to be in carrot cake variety.
Nice.
So yes.
Awesome. Yeah, I, in addition to also going to the Cheesecake Factory with you, which I had a delightful raspberry cheesecake, but that wasn't my favorite. That wasn't even my favorite snack this week. I went all out with snacks. When we were in Detroit, backstory, we used to live in Detroit, and when we lived up there, we used to go to this place called Luigi's, and it's like a little hole, like, I don't want to call it like a hole in the wall, but it's like local famous, kind of, you know, very small, and like 15 tables.
Okay.
Yeah, we went in there, and it was also we're just getting dessert. So, yeah, but their tiramisu is delicious. We got one of those, and we shared it. Me and my husband did. And then I also got, I don't know if you've ever heard of this. It's called an affogato. And
an avocado?
Close. Just as delicious as an avocado.
Okay.
But it's more delicious. For people out there who don't like avocados, affogatos are way more delicious.
Okay.
So it is how do I explain it? Okay, so they put gelato in a cup, and then they pour a shot of espresso over it, and it melts all together, and it turns super delicious coffee slushy almost. And it is one of my favorite things ever.
What flavor of gelato is it?
So this is just vanilla, but you could do any.
Okay.
I've made it before with pistachio gelato, which was pretty good.
Okay.
But yeah, this was absolutely delicious. It was delightful, and
I'm just trying to figure out how the flavor mixes with the coffee. Like, I don't know how adventurous you should be with that.
Well, I can take that as a personal challenge, and I can let you know when I reach the do not cross this line of gelato flavor.
I can't wait.
But I think it'll take a really long time, and I don't think I'll ever get there. Because gelato is delicious, and espresso is delicious. And like you were saying earlier, I am going to use affogatos as my rating system this week. So,
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Are we ready to get into our reviews?
Yes.
Already?
You first.
Okay. Me first. Okay. Okay, so I read 4 books this week, but 3 of them were part of a series, so I don't know if it really counts as 4.
It counts.
Okay, so I read 4. So first, I'm gonna also point out, so I listened to one of them, and then I read the other 3. So the one I listened to was called The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I had to Google how to say his name because I was thinking that it was Sager, but I think it's Sager. So whichever one, I'm sorry if I'm wrong. But that one is one that I read with my sister as part of our sister book club. And she really likes to listen to books, so I tend to read or listen in whatever medium that she's listening to because I like to have the the same outlook of the book. So if the narrator is bad or whatever the case is, then we both have the same experience with it. So The Only One Left, it's about this murder that happens in the 1920s in this little town. And there's only one person who lives, who is the only one left, and it's her whole family that is it's her whole family that's murdered, and the town like gossips and stuff like that, and like accuses her of being the person who killed the family, but she's never prosecuted or anything like that. There's never enough evidence to put her away. And the story actually takes place in like the 80s, so like 30 years after the murders. And this caretaker goes and starts taking care of the woman who is like the accused person. And then the story kind of goes from there. And it kind of just tells the story, and you ultimately find out all the things about the murder and her life and like all the stuff, right? So it's a thriller, mystery thriller. And I rated it 3.5. So that means it gets 3.5 cheesecakes. I mean, carrot cakes. Good gracious. It gets 3.5 carrot cakes, which sounds like a lot.
It was a really good book.
Because I liked it. Right? Because I did enjoy it. Oh, and it's 3.5 out of 5. Let's say we're going to use like Goodreads, whatever. Like 3.5 out of 10 would have been terrible. But 3.5 out of 5. Because it was good. But it felt like it was trying to be too twisty. Like there were too many things that happened that was like, it was too confusing. There was characters and people all over the place. Towards the end, it was like I had no idea what was going on. And in my little debrief with my sister, both of us kind of said the same thing. We had to like fill in the holes for each other because neither one of us really had the full story. And still, even at the end, tried to figure out some missing pieces. And we just, so it wasn't great, but we both like enjoyed our time, if that makes sense.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, I think that's it for the only one left. I think it's good if you like mystery thriller stuff like that. It's a good one. But it's definitely not at the top of the list for sure. So next, the 3 books that I read that are part of the series is the Kindred's Curse series. So the first book is Spark of the Everflame. So I feel like everyone would probably know it from that name. And then the second one is Glow of the Everflame. And the third is Heat of the Everflame. And then I will say before I even kind of go into the review of them, there is a 4th book coming. It should only be a 4-book series. I'm pretty sure that's what I read. However, the 4th book does not have a release date. So I saw this after I had already started it, and I want everyone to know in case like some people don't like to start series if the whole thing is not out yet. So know that going into it. There's been some like drama, I guess, with the release date. It was supposed to be a little bit earlier this year, and then it moved to July 31st, and then that didn't happen. And so, whoops. And then, yeah, and now she's basically said on Instagram that she's not going to give a date yet because it's not like set in stone. So
Weird.
Know that going in. Yeah. Okay, so the Kindred Curse series is about, it's a fantasy series. I think she calls it romantasy, whatever, but it's a slow burn romance fantasy. And when I say slow burn, I mean like the slowest fucking burn you could ever think of. Also, I want to point out to you though, I saw a picture on the author's Instagram where I don't know if you've ever been on Bookstagram, you'll see like those where you'll see the title and it's got these little arrows that come off of it that explain like what the book is about or whatever. And on her actual profile, one of the little swirly arrows, it says the slowest of slow burns. And I was like, oh, I should have read that before because I did not know that going in. So, yeah. But it's a slow burn romance fantasy. And it's basically like this mortal city that is overlooked by this realm of magic people that they call the Descendants. And so there's like a bunch of different realms. Each one has their own rules about whether mortals can enter and not, and like all the things. There's a whole bunch of like rules between the people that are magic and the people that are mortal. And it just follows this girl who lives in Mortal City, and her like her adventure through going into the magic realms and interacting with all the magic people and stuff like that. So I really liked it. So the first book I gave 4 carrot cakes. The second book I gave 3.8 carrot cakes, and the last book I gave 3.5 carrot cakes. But I will say for the last book, it's a 3.5 is generous. The third one, 3.5 is only because at this point I'm invested in the characters and I'm I want to know what's going on and stuff. The third one is so long, so it's 1,026 pages.
Jeez.
It could have been cut down probably by at least 400 pages. It's not, I'm not even kidding. It was so long. I wrote down in my notes that between pages 300 and 600, I basically skimmed the whole thing. There was so much unnecessary build up to things. There was it was do you know in books when they try to mislead you, and so they have this thing happen over here when really there's no chance, it's not what it seems to be at all. And so there was so much of that it was getting old, and I was this is ridiculous. And so speaking of the third book as well, I remember your sister read this and she ended up DNFing the third book, right?
Yes.
And what was her reason behind DNFing the third one?
She hated the main character. She was if I remember correctly, she was she's such a whiny little, she just did not like the main character at all. She couldn't get past it. So I definitely agree. I understand why she would DNF the third one for sure, especially because of how long it was. I don't know how far she got into it, but the fact that it's so long and you have to deal with the main character for the whole time. And also, I will say too, a lot of the side characters I really enjoyed. And if you remember from episode 0, characters are very important to me because the world means very little to me in a lot of it because I can't see it, so it doesn't matter. And so the side characters are very prevalent in the first part of the third book, and then they aren't in the middle portion of it, and it takes a lot away from the story, and it bothered me. That was a big problem for me in this series. But also I will say the problems I had with her are very similar to the problems I have in most lead females in these type of books. So for me it felt okay, I've read worse, right? I've endured worse female leads than this. And so I will say though, she was beyond annoying in that she was in denial about everything. Even into the third book. We're 500, 600 pages into the third book, which the other ones are not short either. So the first book is 637 pages and the second book is 438 pages. So we're now 1,500 pages into the series and you're still in denial about shit. Come on, man. Yeah.
Get your shit together.
This isn't a good look.
No. So I'm still going to say that I recommend it to anyone who likes fantasy, romance, romantasy stuff. I'm still going to recommend it. I still think you would enjoy it. I just want you to know going in that you might hate her a little bit. You might get a little annoyed with her, which is okay. And then I also do want to say before I close out is All 3 books are currently on Kindle Unlimited. So if you have that, then you can read them for free, basically. And then I also saw on Instagram that they are on, the first book at least, is on sale on Audible for the whole month of August. And I think it's like $5.99 or something like that. So, so it's a good time to start it if you are interested in reading it at all.
Nice.
So I think that's everything I have for this little annoying lady. But I am very excited about the 4th book, and as soon as it comes out, I will be reading it.
Nice. Yeah, I'm interested to see what you think of it, and because, like I said, my sister did not finish it, so I don't know if she would go back and read the 4th book.
I kind of wish that she, like, I want to know where she gave up on it. Like, what was the final straw for her?
Okay. Yeah, I'll ask her and I'll let you know. So maybe she'll listen to this episode and she'll chime in and be like, it was this part.
Yes. Okay, great.
All right. Yeah, I'll let her know. Okay, so I read 3 books this week. My first one that I'm going to talk about was also a sister read. I say sister read. This is the first sister read that we've ever done, and it did not go well. We did not pick well. So we picked this book, totally on the fact that she had 2 copies, and so she gave me a copy, and we were like, well, hell, let's sister read it and see what happens. Now, it took her, and she reads extremely fast, it took her a month to read this book, and it took me twice as long. And we both walked away from this book when we finally talked about it this last weekend when I went to go see her. We finally talked about it, and both of us were like, we would have DNF'd it if it wouldn't had been a sister read. And then we both looked at each other and were like, well, you should have just DNF'd it then. Just stopped. And we're like, I couldn't. You were still reading. So that book, great. I've been talking about a book that I haven't told you what it is yet. The book that we read together was Lies We Sing to the Sea by Sarah Underwood. And I didn't like it at all. So this book, the author did an interview where she said that it was supposed to be like I'm air quoting here, it was supposed to be a retelling of the story of the Odyssey, but she she did a interview a while ago, and I have not been able to find this interview. I did some looking, and I guess the interview actually got taken down because she got some heat from it, I guess. But she admitted in this interview that she never finished the Odyssey because she didn't like it, which I thought was a weird way to then be like, I didn't like this book, but I'm now going to write another book about it. So
was her plan to rewrite it or something? To write it in a way that she liked better?
That's a good question. So that whole thing that I just told you, like I said, is unverified by me. I was not able to go back and find that interview. It was just, things that I had read on the internets, and it was an unfortunate book to read because it was, if you ignore all that stuff, the book was still really slow and it was kind of boring. Yeah. It felt like the first 2/3 there was no forward momentum. It was just talking and planning out the same plan for the whole thing. And then, not intentional skimming, but I would sit there and I'd come out of it. I'd be like, what has happened in the last 6 pages? And I'd go back and I'd be like, I don't remember any of this. So yeah, I would say it was terrible. It wasn't great. I would not recommend this book. Like I said, I would have DNF'd it if it wasn't a sister read, and my sister said the same thing. She gave it a 1.8 out of 5, and I have to agree. I'm saying 2 stars or 2 affogatos out of 5 would be very generous. So, yeah.
Okay.
Skip that one. So the next book I read was the Book of Gothel. by Mary McMine, I think. And so I should preface that I never really got into the Disney movie stuff, so I had no clue that...
Which is not surprising.
Right. I had no clue, really, that Gothel was the name of the antagonist in Rapunzel, the Disney movie. So I realized it when I was doing like some backstory research for this episode, and like there's like what the story the Grimm brothers told, and then there's the story that was in Rapunzel. Mm-hmm. So this book is kind of, I wouldn't call it like a retelling, but it's more of like an origin story of Gothel. But in this book, the Gothel, like the main character, Gothel, is not a person. Gothel is not the person. Gothel is the tower that she lives in. And then, there's the actual girl who grows up to live in that. And, like the story of how she got that, like that bad rep of being, the villain of the story. And I will say, though, that if you read the description of the book online, the book makes it sound like the description makes it sound like it's a completely different book. You actually read the book, and the first 80% of the book, I was like, when does the description happen? like, where are we here?
That's weird.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. I felt like it was like, I don't want to call it gaslighting, but it felt pretty close. Like, you're like, this is going to happen. And it did not happen. Mm-hmm. Until the last, about 20% of the book, it ties into the Grimm brothers version of the book, not the Rapunzel version. So if you're going to, if you've been thinking about reading it, because you're thinking like Disney Rapunzel, it is not that version. It is the Grimm brothers version. So, I mean, with that in mind, I would probably say go ahead and read it, as long as you know that up front. I didn't know that up front. But I would give that one between 3.5 and 4 avocados. And the last book.
That's the last high.
Yeah, it was pretty good. The book was really good, as long as you, like I said, it was good. Not really good. It was good.
Right.
The last book, Magician's Daughter by H.G. Perry. This one is like a cozy historical fantasy. There's magic. I picked it because it was Kindle Unlimited, and I didn't want to pay for another book. But it's about a girl. Right. Yeah. It's about a girl. She's been adopted by a magician and his familiar, and the story starts, and like she has this like cozy magical life on this island. Just her day-to-day life doing like magical cool things. Not her, but like the island and her magician. And but like the book happens, and they're like, oh, but surprise, there's this huge secret. And that's what her finding out all of the details of the secret that have to do with her. It was slow to get going, and I felt like The Magician was written in such a way to purposely keep that level of like slow learning going. Because like if he would have just had like an open, communicative like discussion with her at the beginning of the book, like 60% of the book wouldn't have happened. You know what I mean? So, and then what I don't like about fantasy books, and I say this now, what I don't like about fantasy books is I don't like in a fantasy world when they're like, oh my gosh, this could never happen, or this doesn't happen here, whatever. And then like the main character comes in and they're like, but I found this magic arrow and it fixes all of our problems. And I'm like, why did you just not do that at the beginning of the book? Like, why didn't you tell me there was a magic arrow that could do all these things? This kind of had an ending like that, where it was like, at the end...
I feel like you might not like a lot of fantasy books, because I feel, especially when they deal with magic, because that happens a lot.
I know. I really should have Like, I can understand a little bit of, like, I understand using magic to do things, but I don't like it when they say, you cannot do this. This is a rule of magic. And then at the end, they're like, well,
Right.
actually, we knew it was a rule. But, like, in this book, they're like, but we did it anyway. And I'm like,
Right.
Sir.
Rules changed.
like, sir, come on. Like, you just told me 300 pages ago that you couldn't do that. And now you're saying that it's okay this one time.
Right.
Like, come on. That's where I draw the line.
Yeah.
So, I guess
Okay.
I'd give that book, like, I don't know, like three avocados. Nothing crazy,
Okay.
but, you know, I'm not sad that I read it.
Solidly average.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. All right. Well, that is all of our reading. So now we're going to, we have this little collection of like book related questions or topics or whatever. And we're going to randomly pick one at the end of each episode, and then we'll discuss it. We'll give our thoughts and all of our feelings. And then we'll also put it on Instagram because we want in our stories, because we want you guys to also weigh in on them. And if there's anything that's like particularly wild or crazy, we'll talk about it in the next episode.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick out one of them right now for us to do.
I can hear you mixing them.
You can't out here. All right. I got it stuck. Hold on. Okay. So your thoughts on unpronounceable names and places in books.
Oh, man. I have many thoughts on unpronounceable names and places.
Yes. Tell me all your thoughts and feelings.
One, even if they were pronounceable names, I still wouldn't remember them if there's more than like 5 people. Like, I am the person that I almost need, like, at the beginning of the book, you to tell me, like, so I can go back and be like, ah, yes, this person is this person. But when they're unpronounceable, I hate it. Like, why do we have to have this? And then in my brain just says, this is now pronounced like this. So, like, this long sentence is now apple.
That's what I do. Uh-huh. That's exactly what I do. If it is unpronounceable, if I look at it and I can't immediately be like, that name is John, like, I'm just going to call them whatever I feel like. Like, it'll be close, but it's so frustrating to me. And then what bothers me later is like when you hear somebody else say it and they say it in a different way, and I'm like, who are you talking about?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I changed their name. Dang it.
Oh, that, or you like, yeah, or you hear like the author then say it, and you're like, what? You're not even.
Yes.
You're right.
Yeah, like, no, you got that from that spelling? Like, I don't understand. I also have a feeling, though, like, sometimes it's so extreme that I'm like, how, like, did you do this on purpose? Did you make this as unpronounceable as possible? Like, it seems intentional.
Right. I think it gives a little something, something to the story when they can't pronounce all these words.
Right.
No.
Right.
Don't do that.
Yes,
Please stop.
I dislike that very much. Also, I want to go back to you said that, like, in the beginning of your book, it'd be nice to have like a layout of all the characters and stuff. I've actually had to do that before. There was it's actually the middle series of the Shadowhunter series that I like. So it's the series that comes in between Infernal Devices and Mortal Instruments. And in that series, it's like children, like offspring of the people that you knew in the prequel. And I, for the life of me, could not remember which child belonged to which couple. And so I literally had to create myself like a bookmark of the family tree. So every time I read a name, I would go and be like, oh, you're this person's son. Oh, you're this person's daughter. Like, it was ridiculous. So now I feel like anytime if there's more than 5 characters, that is what I have to do. I have to create myself a bookmark that goes in the book, and now this is just, it lives here. Like, this is to help me remember who people are.
That's smart. I should do that, but I feel like it would slow me down in reading.
It's needed sometimes.
We'll see.
Oh, it for sure did. But I found myself, like, while I was reading that one, I found myself spending more time trying to remember who belonged to who than just reading. So I found that if I had a little cheat sheet, it made it easier. So maybe that's what we need to do with unpronounceable names, is like when we find them, make a little note of like how you're actually supposed to pronounce it, and then that's our cheat sheet.
Yeah.
Or just keep doing what you're doing, and
I don't know, I kind of like making up my own
call
names.
them whatever you want. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
I will never stop.
So yes. So we're gonna put that discussion post in our Instagram story. So head over there and tell us what you do. If you do the same thing as us, or if you are, you know, just a super genius and you just know how to pronounce everything.
Yeah, we need to have a discussion with you.
Okay. Yeah, so go over to our Instagram. Our Instagram is Savor the Story Pod. Also in our Instagram, in our link tree, is our Goodreads. So if you want to go check out our Goodreads, you can go there and see, get a little head start on what we're reading and looking at. And I will also probably end up posting some reviews that are a little more spoilery than I talk about here. So if you want to see some more in-depth information of what I thought of some of these Spark of the Everflame books, go check it out there. And then you can also go to our website at savorthestorypod.com, and we have a form on there that you can fill out, that you can send us an email talking about whatever books you want to recommend or talk about, or snacks that you have that you want to have us try, or any other information you want to share with us via email.
That being said, thanks for coming and listening to our episode. I hope to hear from you guys, to hear what you guys think about it. And this is my fervent plea that you come back and listen to episode 2. So I hope to see you guys next week. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.